In this video, we'll talk about proportional relationships and word problems, see how it looks in the table and on the graph. At JJ's wedding, for every 8 guests on groom's side, there were 24 guests on bride's side. So here's a ratio. For every 8 guests on groom's side, there were 24 guests on bride's side. Based on this ratio, how many guests on the bride side? Here's the question. How many guests on the bride side, that's unknown, would be for every 4 guests on the groom side? So the given ratio is groom side to bride side. 8 for groom side, 24 for brides. Using this ratio, we can set up a proportion. Based on this ratio, how many guests on the bride side, we don't know. So lined up with bride side, we'll use a variable. If there were 4 guests on the groom side, 4 for the grooms. So given the ratio 8 to 24, we can find out how many guests on the bride side if there are 4 on grooms. Cross multiply to solve the proportion. So we have 8x equals 24 times 4. And then solve. 24 times 4 is 96. Divide by 8. And our unknown would be 12, which means for 4 guests on the groom side, what would be the ratio of 12 on the bride side? So to answer this question, based on this ratio, how many guests on the bride side would there be? You would say 12. In the table of values, now we have the x equals 12, so we can substitute. And let's plot this information onto the graph to see how it shows up. 4, 12. So 4 is the groom side, that will be our x-axis. Y is the bride side, so that is going to be on the y-axis. 4 to 12 will be groom 4, bride 12. 5 to 15 will be 5 on the groom side, 15 for brides. 6 to 18, so 6 on the groom side, 18. Then we have an unknown, so we're going to have to figure out that number in a moment. But we'll plot 8 to 24, so 8 guests on the groom side, 24 on the brides. Once you take a ruler, you'll notice that it is a straight line when we connect these points. And the line will be going through 0 or starting at 0. And all the points will be on the line. So this unknown right here, we can actually read off the graph now. 7 guests on the groom side. If we look across, how many on the bride side would that be? 21. So one way is to figure out from the graph. Another way is to set up a proportion again and look for the missing value. So this side right here, I'm going to use for a proportion to prove that that number is 21, and it works. So right here, where it's step 3, we'll get back to 2 in a moment. Solve for the missing value. The missing value was 21. So let's give it a variable, let's say a. So I'm going to put 7 to 8 is as A to 24. So we saw it on the graph. Now let's see if it's working through the proportion as well. 8A cross multiply is 7 times 24, the other way across. 8A equals 168. Dividing that by 8, and we'll have 168 to divide by 8, 21, exactly. 21 guests on bright side. So that is our unknown. We can see it on the graph, and we can set up a proportion using a ratio that we know and the 7 including with the unknown. In step 2, we have to identify the rate of change from this table. When we look at the rate of change, we'll always use the relationship of y over x. So the y-axis over the x values. So from the graph, the y's are the bride numbers and the x is the groom. So we're going to set up the ratio between all the values for the y over the values for the x. So 12 over 4. And that is going to be the same as 15 over 5, which is 3. And is the same as 18 over 6, which is 3. Same as 21 over 7, which is 3. Same as 24 over 8. So in the proportional relationship, all the ratios are equivalent. And they all equal to 3 over 1, which means for every 3 guests on the bright side, there's 1 guest on groom's side. Use the completed table and graph the proportional relationship. We have the graph showing now all the points on the straight line. So the graph of the proportional relationship is a straight line. And where does the graph start? At 0.